All right, Tim Adams, Chad Brendel, BearcatJournal.com, and Tim, time for the Memphis game Thursday night in Memphis. And as we know, Memphis came in last year, AAC season opener for the Bearcats, and it did not go well. So this Cincinnati team should have a little bit of revenge on their mind as they head down for a big Thursday night game.
I think they have to have a lot more than revenge on their mind. They need to just play a good game, not turn the ball over and put together 4 good quarters. They're very capable of doing that, but we haven't seen that so far this year. So if revenge is high on their mind, I would suggest that they forget about it and just go back to playing good, solid football would be my advice.
And, that's got to be a bit of a concern after the way most of that game was played against Miami of Ohio, and obviously the Temple game didn't go that well either, but you're right. It's just a matter now of getting back on track, starting to get back to playing some sound fundamental football.
Yeah, the offense has to quit turning the ball over. We talked about the 5 turnovers that cost them really the game against Temple, and the 4 turnovers, and then Coach Tuberville, we just got out of the press conference, mentioned the 2 other fumbles. The one, Chris Moore made a nice play, but then lost the football. I'm not sure if he recovered it or some other Bearcat recovered that ball, but if you don't recover that ball down there,
it's over.
Yeah, the game's over, and UC loses it. So they've got to quit putting the ball on the turf. They've got to quit throwing it to the guys with the wrong jerseys on. And if they can do that, then I think they'll have a good chance. But right now, they're just making way too many mistakes, costly mistakes. And when you look at this team, defense was the group that we worried about most coming into this season, and the defense is, I think, far outplaying the offense. And to be honest, in camp, it was the same way.
It was the same way, and on the defense, you have to give them a ton of credit for their ability to get off the field after the turnovers, because really, and the turnovers have been horrendous, but if the defense was giving up more points off of those, it would be it would look 10 times worse right now. They've done a great job holding serve.
They've really done a good job. They gave up some points against Temple, but they also helped to get Cincinnati back in. The one thing that they haven't done is they haven't got many takeaways.
Yeah.
They got 1 takeaway. Zach Edwards had the interception. They had against Miami and then 1 the week before, so they've only had 2 in the last 2 games. And really, Zach is good. He got the big interception down near the goal line on a Miami pass, but could have had a pick 6 a little later than that. He just wasn't hang on to it. Whitty, on the play that he broke his ankle, also had a great chance for a pick there. So I'd like to see that defense get some more takeaways. We had some trouble really with takeaways last year. And
they are going to be tested because this Memphis offense is fantastic.
Really Paxton Lynch is a guy that I've been watching since he was a freshman, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. He'll come into this game completing 77% of his throws, and that's really remarkable.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And he's a guy that's tall, 6'7". He can run the football. He can hurt you with his feet if he has to. He's got enough good receivers out there. He's got a bevy of backs. They're going to shift probably, a lot of Cincinnati fans think running 3 guys in and out. Well, I think they're probably running 4 guys in and out. So they don't have that feature back, although Sam Kraft had a big game against them last year, rushed for over 100 yards. But it's a good offense. They've got a very good center. They've got a good left tackle. I think the right tackle is the transfer from Louisville. So they've got a good line. I know that Bowling Green's coach, Coach Babbins, he said that he thought they were trees out there. And this is a guy that played Tennessee a week ago. And Maryland, Maryland 1 week ago and Tennessee 2 weeks ago. So he also said that he thought that Memphis may be the best program, the best team in Tennessee. So he was basically suggesting that is some talent right there. He was basically suggesting that maybe Memphis is even better than the Vols. So obviously this is a good team. Offensively, they're going to score points. One of the big plays that they made against Bowling Green when they were behind was a flea flicker that went for about 60 yards.
Yeah, they pulled out the whole bag of tricks against Bowling Green.
Yeah, they did. And they're a team that, I think they'll be willing to do that again against Cincinnati. Cincinnati really hasn't done anything like that yet. So maybe they've been just trying to hold serve and be okay. But offensively, you're right. This is a team that's scoring a lot of points, scored 44 against a suspect Bowling Green defense. But I think the Bearcats will give them a little more to worry about. but with Whitty out, that hurts you somewhat. I think Alex Thomas has to be the guy.
I was going to say that the Alex Thomas era begins, hopefully.
Big hitter. Every time, if he could just keep the same jersey on from 1 week to the next, so that he's had 3 different jerseys. But Lyndon Stevens was listed first on the depth chart this week, but I'm not expecting that to happen. I think Alex Thomas has to be one of your starters at cornerback.
Memphis defensively, they lost a ton. So if you're going to get after them, you hope Gunnar Kiel is ready to go. Coach Tuberville said he practiced a little bit on Monday. They would test him a little bit more today on Tuesday to see where he was at. But sounds like there's a decent chance that he can play. Either way, whether it's him or whether it's Hayden Moore, you're going to have to get after this Memphis defense, because if they've got one weakness, it's getting guys up to speed and getting some guys some experience there.
Yeah, no question about that. It's interesting to hear them talk about Kiel, because now, after we were sort of led to believe it was a head thing, now it's saying it's not a head thing, it's a shoulder thing. So the chance of him playing, according to today's press conference, is that there's a good chance that Kiel will play. We'll see. I think that these quarterback things are people trying to throw smoke screens out there until they show up and we see who's out there. But defensively, one guy that I think Memphis has as a terrific defender is Jackson Dillon. That kind of defensive end, outside linebacker role. I don't know what they call it. They're called the Leo here usually, but I think he's outstanding. He's about 6'5" or so. He's been a little bit light in the pants in previous years, but he's listed at 245 this year. He's a guy that can make a lot of things go wrong for the other team, and in that bowl game against BYU, he was absolutely outstanding in that game last year. They've got a guy that some Cincinnati fans may remember, Jared Gentry, a defensive tackle from Alabama that originally tried to commit here at Cincinnati, and then there was a mix-up in Cincinnati. I guess wasn't sure they wanted the commitment, and he ended up going to Memphis. He's the backup as a true freshman at that nose tackle behind the Pennington kid, who has been at a nose tackle extremely disruptive. I think he's got 3.5 tackles for loss and 1.5 sacks. So for a nose tackle, that's really being productive. But the defense is not the strength of their team, although last week against Bowling Green, the last 3 times the Falcons had the ball was 3 and outs. So.
Well, it's not that they don't have talent, it's just that they graduated so many guys from last year that it's an inexperienced group, which means as the season goes on, they've got a chance to get better and better.
Well, and they did give up 41 points, but then again, that Bowling Green offense, Johnson at the helm is a very good quarterback. They got 2 wide receivers, and Ronnie Moore, who was committed here during the Butch Jones years, and then when that coaching change happened, he went to Bowling Green. And Roger Lewis, another wideout that was actually committed to Ohio State, is one of their other wideouts. So, and they struck Memphis over the top, which is something we haven't seen Cincinnati do a lot of. But I think Johnson had 2 90-yard touchdown passes in that game against Bowling Green. So I'd like to see Cincinnati and Gunnar be able to stretch the field, which, again, is something we really didn't see a lot of even in training camp with him throwing the deep ball. Moore was usually the guy throwing the deep ball in training camp. One other thing that we could see, and I asked a question today in the press conference, is Jared Evans is now going to apparently take some snaps at quarterback. I think that was a must that they did that, because like Tuberville,
you need a third.
Yeah, you did, and in the press conference they told it more. You're the guy out there because there's no one else going to come in behind you. But having a guy like Jared Evans, who's a good athlete back there, and if you are trying to catch somebody with their pants down, that's a guy who's a totally different offensive game than either Moore or Kiel. So I think that rather than having, you could still play him on special teams, but instead of having him as the 3rd-string cornerback, although now with the injury to Whitty, he might be the 2nd-string cornerback, but I think Pickney can slide in there and be okay. But it looks like Evans is going to take some more snaps at quarterback. I think that's big for Cincinnati.
So what's your prediction?
Everything, all logic says that you have to go with Memphis. They're at home. They're a good team. Offensively, they're excellent. But it's hard for me to pick against the Bearcats. And I just keep waiting for them to put everything together. And one other thing I did want to mention before I give my pick is that the other great thing about Memphis is they have a good kicker too. Jake Elliott is one of the better kickers in the country, and I think he's only missed a couple of kicks. I don't know if he's missed any this year, but he's made, I think, from 52 yards out. But I'm going to take the Bearcats just because it's too hard for me not to. And I think eventually they have to put everything together. This team isn't as bad as it's played. You're going to take Memphis, however.
I'm probably going to take Memphis.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little closer than the line, which has gone all the way up to 9.5, almost 10 points. I think it's probably Memphis by 4 or 7. But I think hopefully it's a game that things start going a little bit better for the Bearcats. And you can lose a game and look better than you've looked against Temple and Miami of Ohio, I think. So hopefully this gets them going in the right direction. And I'd love to see them win it, but I just think it's that Memphis offense, especially in game 1 without Whitty, without your senior captain. I think they're able to make a score late to maybe take the victory.
Well, this will be the first time the Bearcats will be underdogs, so
Yeah.
we'll get a chance to see how they respond to being that. Because I really think they've kind of come out here so far this year and kind of just thought they were going to win.
Yeah.
And that hasn't come as easily as they thought. The other thing about the Memphis offense is they do not turn the ball over very much. Paxton Lynch, after 3 games, has not thrown an interception. So, and he's so tall in that pocket. He can see, and he's so accurate with his throws. But if they could get a pick or two and maybe get a fumble, which I think they have fumbled the ball 3 times, who knows what can happen here.
I know. Well, I know one thing, Tim.
What's that?
Sometimes just coming and sitting in the bleachers here at Nippert on a nice sunny
Where did she go?
fall day, she left. She went that way. Ooh,
Yeah.
that looked like a sprinter. She's talented.
Well, let's just say it was bootylicious.
That's going to wrap it up. He's Tim Adams. I'm Chad Brendel from a distracted Nippert Stadium here on BearcatJournal.com.